Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Welcome. We're catching you at our normal, regular time. I feel like it's been a hot minute, but here we are at our normal time.
It's dark out.
On a Wednesday, it's dark out now. Not a fan of that, but Wednesday, 7:30, we are here with you at our normal time for episode 177. My goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Caitlin is rocking her Saquon Barkley shirt tonight. I know you can't really see mine, but I'm rocking my Daniel Jones, my Danny Dimes shirt. We are excited Giants fans. It is great to be doing a show for you guys after a win. Definitely puts us in a great positive mood.
A better mood.
We have an awesome show for you tonight. So lots to talk about, lots to discuss. This week, we did want to start it with asking you to ask us some questions to go over. We asked you on Instagram. We asked you on Twitter. We do have three. Two of them actually are Giants related. One is just football related in general. But this first one, Caitlin, that we got, it is Giants related, is who do you think will be the Giants offensive MVP this weekend in their game against Dallas? Going to be a tough one, tough division game there, but who do you see shining for us?
So what I loved the most about this past week, and you saw moments of it on, in our first two games as well, first three games as well. I really like Daniel Jones is getting time. While our offensive line isn't the best, and I think we all know that, we actually are seeing some little moments here where he is getting some time. He is able to drop back a little bit and throw these dimes like we are talking about, and or strategically make the decision for himself to run forward and to take the ball for himself. So with that spiel, he actually didn't practice today, but it's only Wednesday, so I think we're okay. I got to give it to Andrew Thomas this weekend because he absolutely lit up the field on Sunday. And I have to give all credit where credit is due. I was very nervous about Andrew Thomas coming into the season. I wasn't pleased with what I saw during preseason. He is a first-round pick for us. He's a first-round pick lineman, so you really have to go all in on these guys. And a line that was completely in shambles. So what I saw on Sunday, though, was what we need to see from him. So I give him all the credit. So thank you for proving me wrong. Thank you. But if he does that thing again, he's really doing what this Giants team needs. So I got to give it to him.
Yeah, I know our buddies at Talking Giants have been talking about Andrew Thomas a lot. And that's great because it opens my eyes. It's very difficult for a lot of people because there are no stats. Well, there are, but there's not stats that we're used to seeing for offensive linemen. And unless you're actually really looking for it and focusing on a certain player and watching them on every snap, which usually people are not doing with offensive linemen, it's hard to know whether they're doing well or not. And the guys over at Talking Giants have definitely focused on some of the stats. He's not allowing sacks. He's barely allowing any pressures. And obviously Daniel Jones is getting a lot more time to throw. And so I think it's really great that you mentioned him because he has been greatly improving. And what I like about that is I think it was week one in the Tampa Bay game. Andrew Thomas came out in that draft and there was 4 or 5 linemen that I know that people were going to be choosing between in the first 15 picks. There were a lot of top linemen. And I kind of knew we were going to take one, and it was which one do we go for?
Which one? Yeah.
And Andrew Thomas was actually a surprise to a lot of people that we
a lot of us.
Him. And I think it was Tampa Bay's first game. They have Tristan Wirfs, who is on their offensive line, who came out in that draft. And I remember, I think it was Chris Collinsworth in that game, was just loving Tristan Wirfs and talking about how phenomenal he's been for them. And he's this great young offensive lineman. And I'm sitting there watching it being shit. I think he went pick number 13.
Right.
And we took Andrew Thomas at 4. And I'm sitting there God damn,
right.
We could have had him. So now that I'm seeing improvement from Andrew Thomas, it's bringing me off the ledge.
It's kind of bringing me.
I'm damn it. What
I know.
So I'm so happy, and you're absolutely right. And I love that you picked him and that we can give kudos to him because it's well-deserved.
Absolutely.
I am going to go with a guy that I really hope is going to be the offensive MVP, and I think should be and could be. And I'm going to go with the rookie. I'm going to go with Kadarius Toney because
I love it. He's finally Kadarius Toney sightings, people. He's here.
Yes, I don't really understand what the deal was in the beginning of the season. I don't know what their reasoning was, what their excuse was. There were guys that were seeing the field, like guys like CJ Board, nothing against him, but like
no.
He barely made the final roster. Like this is not only like your first, like this is your first round pick from this year.
Yep.
Why isn't he getting time? So I kind of knew and hoped that with these wide receivers like Slayton and Sterling out for us this past week, I'm like, well, we got to see the kid, right? And we did, and he really looked amazing. But the reason I'm specifically picking him is because he's got a different kind of style to him compared to someone like Odell Beckham Jr. But Odell used to have these really big games when we would play Dallas. And I think one of the reasons for him that is similar to Toney, yards after catch.
And that honestly was one of the most impressive things I saw from him.
And Odell was amazing at that. And Toney that's clearly his strong point of his game. And so I feel as though like, let's dump it off to the kid. DJ, you can give him a 5-yard pass. Let him take it to the house.
Just let him do it. Yeah.
I have a feeling like the way we used to see Odell have those big plays like in prime time against Dallas, I kind of feel like we're going to see those things from Toney.
I love it.
We see those things.
Give us another one-handed catch. Let's see what we can do in Dallas.
Would be nice. But again, I'll take the 5-yard dump off, take it to the house. Please.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, question number 2. How do you feel about the season so far, especially since everyone thought Tampa Bay and Kansas City would coast? I think that's a great question.
I think it is too. So I'm really loving this season. I'm loving this season because we're seeing new names make it and expand their teams, expand their successes in ways probably we did not see them expand it. Maybe, you can have a team, think about the Jacksonville Jaguars. What was it, 5 years ago, where they came off that playoff stint and they were the scariest team. And then they kind of like dumped a little bit. I remember the Giants played them in the first game after that season. We were so scared. We lost, but it was actually like a happy loss for us because we didn't get like pummeled by them. Right. But then that season ended up being weird for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's what I'm kind of like going off of, like teams kind of like sprouting up, but showing successes in really good ways. So I don't think that. And this question's interesting because, it's stemming from like everyone thinking that Tampa Bay and Kansas City are going to coast. I actually think that's the exact opposite in where we're going this season. I think they're going to do fine. Kansas City at the bottom of the barrel right now means absolutely nothing. Right. But Tampa Bay, I question because they barely beat the New England Patriots. They barely beat the Dallas Cowboys, and nothing against the Cowboys because I do think they are strong this season.
I think they're really, really solid.
So it's just, you got to look at it from that. But what I'm loving is the Raiders, the Panthers, the Chargers, the Rams, which have been successful, but even more successful now, the Browns, the Bengals, these teams like really finally forming and showing us who they are in strong suits across the field, across the team, not just in one area. So that's what really thrills me about this season, because we say it year after year. This is a really weird NFL season. And this is another weird NFL season we're having, but it's weird in such a good way because new names are coming out and making themselves. And I really, really like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as this question goes, like, yes, I guess technically and statistically, Tampa Bay and Kansas City are not coasting. However, like, I still believe they're probably the 2 strongest teams in their respective conferences. So there's no doubt in my mind that, we could that could be potentially a Super Bowl matchup right there. You know what I mean? I'm not concerned with what I've seen from them. Like, I still know that they're legit contenders. But yes, I think it's more so of like, this has been kind of a cool season because there are a lot of teams, I think specifically, and you mentioned both of them, teams like the Chargers and the Rams. And even, even the Cardinals too. They're the only undefeated team that's left. I think those 3 teams are are really showing that they could be pretty scary. And I think it's more so like what they've been doing rather than like, I'm not concerned about Tampa Bay and Kansas City with what they've been doing. They're still going to be at the top. It's these other teams that are kind of rising to the occasion that are impressing me because they're not necessarily like we knew they would be good, like you said.
Yeah.
But I think they've so far, those 3 teams I said, I think have exceeded expectations. So
yeah.
All right. And
wait, we got a question right here.
Yes.
What do you ladies think about the Patriots? So this question comes from YouTube, and I see a ton of people watching us on Twitter right now on my phone. Thank you guys so much for viewing us. But unfortunately, with StreamYard, Twitter, and Periscope, we can no longer see who is watching us and who is commenting on our Twitter stream, and we get a ton of people on there. So if you guys want to comment and interact with us, please go to our YouTube channel, and the link is underneath our tweet. So if you want to just watch us, that's fine. We totally understand. But if you want to interact with us, like comment like this, like Michael Means Jr. here, please go ahead to our YouTube channel. So I had to plug that, and I'll continue saying it throughout the show. But what do you ladies think about the Patriots? So listen, I'm obviously a huge Alabama fan, big on Mac Jones. I think he has done a tremendous job coming into 5 games into his career so far. You see that he can launch it. He's the Danny Dimes of New England. He can definitely send those out there, and he does. I think he's a little bit more mobile than he was in Alabama. That was his biggest concern coming into the NFL, that he's a statue. He can't move. He's showing a little bit of flexibility, and I like that. I think he makes more sense to his wide receivers and running backs than Cam Newton ever did. And then also too, the Patriots defense is pretty good. They're up there. We'll talk about it later in the show. We'll talk about stats and leaderboard and stuff. So I'm not like the highest person in the world off the New England Patriots, but I think they're in a very good position right now to just get the wins they need to, solidify the positions they need to, and just build off of it season after season from here on.
They're in a good position because of the division they're in. I think it's not outlandish to say that this is a team that can finish in second place in their division, and they can do so with a rookie quarterback. So that's like a huge accomplishment. But they should be able to surpass the Jets. They should be able to surpass Miami, I think. And I guess the only one of the knocks that I would have to say is, and I do believe, even though I'm not, no offense, I'm not set on Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL yet.
No, that's fine. They've only showed you about a couple games. Don't worry.
Well, I do think that so far from what we've seen, I think Mac has been the most consistent rookie that has seen the field so far. So I think that's a huge win there. Yep. But I get that they were in a close game with Tampa Bay. They completely abandoned their running game. I think they had a total of -1 rush yards in that game. I get that you were in that game with Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, and that's phenomenal. But having -1 rush yards in a game will not set you up for success in the future going forward. They have to fix that.
I agree.
So good question. Thank you for plugging that in there. So our last one is, how does the Hive feel coming off of the Giants winning in that fashion that they did, overtime win against New Orleans?
I got to tell you, it was so good. But there was a point where I knew after the coin toss that we were winning that game. Jabril Peppers, making that statement, that's still the funniest video ever, saying, we want that motherfucker, was the best thing I've ever seen. And the TV did not bleep that out. It was live. It was there. It was phenomenal. I just knew after that we were winning because, and I think he knew, and I think the Giants knew, because it is obviously the NFL is about skill and everything. And the Giants have been just crushed week after week this season so far. But it said, and we'll talk about, there have been positive things. They're making, improvements in places, and they needed that spark. There was always, and Katie and I text every single game, play after play. And there's always these moments where we just need that little kick in the ass, and we're going to get it. We need a pick six. We need a sack. We need something to just really, really light us up. There were so many moments in that game that lit us up. And then that happens. And I was like, oh, come on. You felt it. And what I loved the most too was we were in the Superdome, and it was loud on both ends of the field, but we never let that get to us. It was never a factor. And I absolutely love that. And it just so much hype. And like, yes, I am high off of this game still. And I stupidly texted Katie. I was like, we're going to the Super Bowl. Like, that's how high and dumb you get off these games. But I absolutely love it because it just, things clicked. And I'm not going to think about, the other games because, they're over and done with. What are you going to do? We lost 3 games in a row. There's literally nothing we can do from there, but we did win this one. There's still things we have to fix even after winning a game, but finally things got together and a W is in the Giants' favor and like, hallelujah, hell to the yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with this question, like asking specifically, like, how does it feel to win in this fashion? Well, I think the way that we lost, like the games that we were losing in the fashion that we were losing, that's as low as it gets. Like, I'd rather be blown out completely blown out than lose the way we were losing. Right. So to have the ultimate high is to win the way we just won, like in overtime, in a tight game, like going back and forth. So it's a huge, huge difference. And we are definitely still riding that high. And I said to Caitlin, like, I'm literally just going to revel in this and enjoy this as much as I can for the entire week before the next game comes, win or lose in the next game. Like, I'm just going to live off of that win because sometimes we don't get that often. Sometimes that win doesn't come, another win doesn't come for a while. So I am embracing this one. It was a must-win game. Starting 0-4 would have been horribly, horribly bad. So yes, riding that high, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and one little tidbit before we get into our big stories of the week. We did want to mention rest in peace to Coco Singer.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
Ramona Singer's dog, Coco, who's an absolute staple on Roni. Away, 17 years old.
It's like literally a part of the franchise.
She's been on, so she has been on Roni since the beginning. And so many, I know on Watch What Happens Live, Andy did like a little video tribute to Coco and some of her like great moments on Roni. And honestly, like we know the pain of losing dogs. It's insane. But the fact that she lived 17 years, God bless, and we got to see a lot of memories of Coco on Roni, and our thoughts are with Ramona because we are heartbroken for her. And it's sad to hear that news and share that news.
It truly, truly sucks and very and obviously, like Katie said, we know it firsthand, and it's not anywhere in any way, shape, or form easy, nor does it ever get any easier. And it's not good. But 17 years, holy shit! I am very jealous of that. I'm very envious of that. That's a long time for a doggo. But listen, hug the doggos close to you tonight because we love the doggos, and they're so good. And hopefully we'll have new doggos in our life sometime soon. So, All righty, let's get into the big stories of the week for football. So we are coming up with some hot topics, literally hot, fresh out the kitchen. So what's that song? Hot and fresh out the kitchen.
Is remix to Ignition, but we don't support.
We do not support. Good lyrics, don't support. You do not support R. Kelly.
Let that be known.
We don't. Yes, we have to put that statement out there. But this is literally hot and fresh out the kitchen. So today, Ian Rappaport reported that New England is releasing cornerback Stephon Gilmore. I know this was news with my cup of coffee. That's how early this was this morning. And it was like, oh my God, got to get the news out. Got to figure out what is going on here. So it was morning coffee news, not news. I just coughed on my own spit while I said that. So basically what had happened. So New England and Gilmore and his, representation, they couldn't agree on a long-term contract. So after a couple hours of the release, Carolina Panthers traded for Gilmore in exchange for a 2023 6th round pick. So let's look at this in perspective, because Gilmore is the former Defensive Player of the Year. He did have a quad injury, so he is on the physically unable to perform list right now, but he should be coming back by week 6. But listen, and he's a 4-time Pro Bowler too. Listen, I know Katie and I was talked about this on offline already, but it's not even a 2022 pick. It's a let's wait for 2 years. And maybe that's something. Maybe people aren't allowed to give out next year's picks yet. I don't know what the rules are, but a 2023 6th-round pick for Stephon Gilmore.
I get it. Like, it's kind of amazing to me what happens in the league sometimes, like with older players, but like he's 31 years old.
He's 31.
One Defensive Player of the Year in 2019, 2 years ago. Like, this guy can ball. He's a baller. So
Absolutely.
I think people like saw like, okay, he's older, right? And he's coming off of this injury. I get it. I hear you. But honestly, like, and I said to Caitlin, I go, I don't know how serious that injury is, but I'm willing to roll the dice on it and figure out for myself for a 6th-round pick. Are you kidding me? And I said to Caitlin, I was like, did all like 30, 31 other teams like hit them up and say like, you know, like I feel
you'd be stupid if you did not. I don't care where you are in your cap space. You still call and try to make an offer.
I want to go around to all 31 other teams and be like, would you give this up to get Stephon Gilmore?
It's
like,
not even the pay.
Yes. That's insane. So Carolina, good for you. Honestly, this is ridiculous in my opinion.
No, honestly, all 31 teams should have been on the phone as soon as possible. Again, and I don't care. And they showed there's been lists all day about the cap space and what everyone has. Where I don't care where you shown on that list, whether you are like negative dollars or like you have all the dollars in the world.
It didn't even have money involved.
You call and you figure it out. So so the Patriots, it's a little unfortunate. There's a couple of other guys that they're trying to sign for longer term contracts. So that's where the money came into play. And they're already, you know how much they did in the offseason. So they're a little bit in kind of the weeds with their cap space. So, and obviously the NFL adjusted it this season. So I understand where the issues are coming in, but listen, you know, and
it's crazy.
I think we're both a little kind of up in arms for such a 6th-round pick in 2 years. 2 years. It's not even next year.
Dave Gettleman, did you freaking call and ask them like that? Because I would take that in 2 seconds.
I was on the phone they didn't answer my phone call though. I called them.
Oh my God.
Also, some big news as of last night, but we have more news stemming right before the show that updates it. So yesterday, Dallas released linebacker Jalen Smith. So Smith signed a 5-year, $64 million extension with the team right before the 2019 season, but he is now the odd man out in the linebacker room. So just starting 2 of the last 4 games. There's even, some pictures of that out, like really bad, like blown not coverage, just like missing things like that. Just not really good for him. So
you drafted Micah Parsons, you got Keanu.
Right.
Hill, like it was
Micah Parsons has been doing great. So
yeah, it's been a really like busy like a packed linebacker room.
Yeah.
And again, like he just found himself as the odd man out, even though he's still a solid player.
Very good for sure. And another team too, just looking again to see, who they got, what are money, what are contracts going to look like? What is money? What are contracts going to look like in the future? But still they do have to pay out $7.2 million of his contract. But right before the show, officially about an hour ago, Adam Schefter did report that the Packers are going to finalize a deal with him tomorrow. So we do not know any of the details yet. It's going to happen tomorrow. Obviously, trade deadline was today. So that's it. So we'll see what is that. So we'll report on that. We'll obviously share everything across all of our social handles. But we'll mainly Twitter and Instagram. You can find the news from us. But next week, we'll talk about in detail all of the details in regards to this trade and the new signing. So, but yeah. I love it's not mid-season, but I love the in-season movement and the things that can happen.
There is always stuff for us to talk about.
Always.
So speaking of, let's talk about week 4.
Yeah.
Kind of some of the things that went down in some of the games. This first one, I thought was the most shocking thing of the weekend. The New York Jets upsetting the Tennessee Titans 27-24 in overtime.
I was taking a
think
nap
if
when
we're
they
going
beat
to,
them. It
I think if we're
disturbed
going
my
to talk
slumber.
about the season being a surprise,
Right.
I think we have to mention that I think the Titans have been the weirdest, sketchiest, what the hell is going on there type team, because I get it, like 2 years ago or whenever, when they made their little playoff run, we said, okay, maybe that was just luck. Can Ryan Tannehill really do that again the next year? And he did. He did it last year, right? So now we're riding the train of like, okay, he's legit. Tennessee's legit. This is a contender. And then you lose to the Jets.
I don't know. I'm definitely still on the Titans. I mean, know listen,
it was they play in I think like one of the weakest, if not the weakest divisions. So I still have them winning that division.
Right.
But I don't know what's going on there.
I think it was like I don't know, like a spoof. I think things happen, and I think this is one of the things. It happens, Like
we'll see. We gotta monitor this team moving forward. That was a shocking loss. So another overtime win, like the Jets and the Giants winning in overtime. Obviously,
of course, the Jets can't let us have our time. It has to, because the thing that pisses me off, because I wake up the next day, and obviously I know the Jets won. In overtime, but the next day, all the coverage is just like, oh, to New York, like I just want our own cover. I don't want to be affiliated with the Jets. Like enough is enough. So like,
well, it doesn't happen very often where we both win.
You couldn't let us have in overtime. You couldn't let us have it. Like honestly, like it's annoying. You just couldn't let it. That's why they are literally the younger brother. You couldn't let us shine. Like.
So of course we talked about it. The Giants beating New Orleans 27-21 in overtime on a game-winning 6-yard rushing touchdown by Saquon Barkley. Big game from him. Definitely was flashing Saquon of the old and what people have expected and wanted to see. Buffalo. This was my lock pick, and now it is backed up by the fact that they shut out the Houston Texans 40-0. Complete and utter spanking there. Seattle and San Fran. This was a good game, but Seattle ended up winning 28-21. Unfortunately, Jimmy G exited the game with a calf injury. Don't know what his status is for this weekend, but we did see Trey Lance enter the game. He went 9 of 18 for 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 41 rush yards. So, that's what happens sometimes. Like obviously, Obviously, we saw Justin Fields come in for Chicago due to injury. This is a situation where we're getting to see Trey Lance maybe a little bit earlier than planned because of injury. And it's going to be very interesting to see if he potentially is starting this weekend. And obviously, it's disappointing with Jimmy G constantly getting bit by the injury bug. So hopefully it's not too serious. Hopefully he can still play, because I think he was playing really well, and San Fran's been doing pretty well overall. But who knows? We'll see who we see this weekend. Arizona, they are the last undefeated team standing. They played another undefeated team in the Los Angeles Rams, a really great team, but they ended up winning 37-20. And they have 30 plus points and 400 plus total yards in each of their games this season. If you really sit and let that sink in and think about it, this is one of the most explosive, if not the most explosive offenses in the NFL right now. Denver quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, I know this is a bummer for you. He exited their 23-7 loss to Baltimore during the second half with a concussion. Drew Lock, again, somebody getting an opportunity, comes in, goes 12 for 21, 113 yards and 1 interception. So not the best showing from Mr. Drew Lock. Luckily,
Teddy.
A concussion sucks, but at least it's not it is something that you will get past and get over. And again, we don't know the status for this weekend, but my thought is hopefully he'll be able to play, but we'll keep you posted on that as well. Tampa Bay defeated New England 19-17 in Brady's return to Gillette Stadium. Fun little fact here. Most watched Sunday night football game since 2012. It is the second most watched Sunday night football game of all time. And you know what? This could have ended up being a blowout. Actually, it was Caitlin's upset pick. It really almost happened. New England definitely had points when they were leading for a while. And so it was kind of fun to see a game where I didn't expect it to be close. And it ended up being so it ended up being a fun watch, definitely in a primetime spot, in a game that emotionally had a lot of feeling behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then one last fun fact, Justin Herbert, he is the first quarterback since 1950 to reach 500 plus completions before their 20th start.
I love this for him. I honestly, I love everything for Justin Herbert, you know, in the preseason, you know, the pre-game videos, you know, prior to the Monday night game, they were just showing a lot of him compared to, you know, Patrick Mahomes and other, like, you know, big, you know, Tom Brady, other people, even like people from back in the day. And like, listen, he's putting up there a lot of these stats.
He's legit.
And I just love it. And I think it happened. He is the prime case of, you know, you got to be ready when you're called upon. Tyrod Taylor was the starter. He got hurt and he got some weird ass injuries out there and just weird things happened. But listen, Justin Herbert was called upon and he performed and he continued to perform. And he's now the leader of this team. So like that is literally a prime example of like, you wait your turn. His turn came around pretty quickly, but he was able to step up and go.
The Chargers need to thank their lucky stars because I know it's still kind of like young in his career, but you can already tell that this kid is legit. Mm-hmm. And so he and this team has the opportunity, as long as he's around too, leading them, to be legit for a while. As long as you're able to like keep the pieces there, the majority of the pieces. This is a guy where it's like, you know, we're on our third season of Daniel Jones, and it's still people question, like, is this long-term or not? I feel as though when you hit on a quarterback, like, you got to thank your lucky stars to know that, like, we hit on him and now we can keep him long-term. And we're going to try to make this as long-term as we possibly can. Justin Herbert and the Chargers are legit.
They are.
Be aware.
And he's fun to watch.
They beat a very good Las Vegas team who was off to a hot start this season. They won 28-14, so that's a big win for them as well. And yeah, they're fun. They are.
Yeah, and he's a fun. Katie and I, you know, talk about this all the time. Like, obviously, diehard Giants fans, we have our players that we just love to see season after season. He is one of the players that I truly enjoy watching him right now.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Alrighty, it's a time of the episode where we give you our picks for week 5. I cannot believe we are rolling into week 5 here, right? Like, where have the past 5 weeks gone?
We're coming up on bye weeks soon.
I don't even know. I know, and I have to like keep like mentally noting that because the bye weeks obviously was 17 games.
They start next week. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all over the place. So guys, fantasy alert, boop boop. Pay attention to your bye weeks, people.
Please, yeah.
And all with the injuries too. That's really, so I've been totally plagued by IR people, everything like that. So like guys, like bye weeks are totally going to screw you with all the injuries and everything too. So just be aware, get ready. Mm-hmm. So let's go into our picks. Obviously we give you our picks for every single game that's coming up for this week. We give you our lock and we give you our upset as well. Disclaimer that this is not based on money lines. This is not based on any particular player, play, anything like that. Katie and I are just straight up telling you who we think is going to win each game this week and then telling you what we think our lock and our upset are. Listen, if you're gambling people and you want to take our thoughts, great, good for you. But if you lose, don't ever come back at us because, again, this isn't based off anything crazy. We are just letting you know what we think. So why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Okay. This week in week 5, I'm going with the Rams, Atlanta, Minnesota, Washington, New England, Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Carolina, Tennessee, the Chargers, the Raiders, Arizona, Dallas, Kansas City, and Baltimore. My lock is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Miami Dolphins. My upset might be a little bit of a cop-out because I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be playing, but record-wise, it's a 1-3 team versus a 3-1 team. I'm going with the Steelers over the Broncos.
All right. And I lost you about halfway through per usual.
No, okay,
so
you don't read them too fast, and I'll be able to keep
okay. I will go slower. I know I read them way too quickly last week, but obviously we always post them on Thursdays. So don't worry. You guys will see these in writing tomorrow before the Thursday night game. But let me start. All right. So I do have the Rams, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Minnesota. I'm going with the Broncos, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, the Panthers, Tennessee, New England, the Raiders, the Chargers, going with the Giants, Arizona. It's my upset, relax. Arizona, Buffalo, and Baltimore. My lock is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the Miami Dolphins, like you. And my upset is the Giants over the Cowboys.
All right. Well, we have 5 different. I was able to keep track of them. So.
All right. Honestly, like I've been looking, we're not doing bad actually.
Last week was definitely my worst week I've had. I only got 9 out of 16, but the 2 weeks before that, I had like 11 and 12 out of 16.
Yeah, it's not
crushing it. So for the majority of things, and week 1 is like almost like you throw that out because week 1 is so hard to predict. But I feel like for the most part, yes, we've been doing well. So let's get into our big stories of the week in the world of housewives. We have 2 interesting, juicy stories for you.
Juice.
First one, very juicy. It is about Miss Vicki Gunvalson. And last week, the news came out, and Vicki confirmed it herself, that her 2-year engagement to Steve Lodge has officially ended. They are no longer together. I have a quote from Vicki. She said, "It has taken me a day to be able to make a statement after the press started writing about Steve and I. Yes, the rumors are true that time has come for Steve and I to move forward or move on, and we are moving on. There is no fault with either person. We are just going in different directions. I wish him the best life has to offer and to be happy, and he has wished the same for me. I gave it my all, but sometimes the all isn't enough." So I really haven't, in reading about this story, really haven't heard any rumors or reasonings or anything specifically that happened, where it went wrong. But Vicki last publicly supported and talked about Steve over the summer during his failed run for governor of California. The 2, just a little relationship history. The 2 had gotten engaged in April of 2019 after 3 years together. And then the following April, they had actually postponed. They were planning a wedding, but had postponed it due to the COVID pandemic. So an insider told E! News that they had been living separately for much of the pandemic. And reports state that Steve ended the engagement after they tried reconciling following a June split that Vicki herself had initiated. So that's as juicy of the details of what went wrong that I have. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Did you see this coming? I don't know.
I definitely did. So because even he was showed on a couple of the episodes when she was back on the franchise. So I saw that for sure. He definitely didn't want to be in the spotlight. There was always pressure for him, when are you going to propose? All this, and I hate when people do that. Honestly, it's worse when it might be worse when you're older. At least when you're younger in a relationship, the pressures from everyone. When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids or come? But when you're old, they're in their 50s and their 60s, dude, pump the brakes. You don't have to so that was a lot before they got engaged of him. When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? All this stuff. I would just be over it by that time. And we see a lot of these men come in and so I definitely I don't know, but I also could say probably too, I think COVID probably saved a lot of relationships from actually doing. So this might be saving them.
But ended, and I because
that's what I meant in a good way, saved it by ending.
Yes. I was going to bring up the same exact thing. Like, I think COVID was either it really put a microscope under everybody's relationship.
Right.
If you were in a relationship during COVID, especially if you were living together, it's like, are we going to get through this together, or are we going to realize like, oh wow, we're spending all this time together and we're really seeing each other like in this light, and maybe we need to move on. And when I say that, I'm also thinking about like Tinsley and Scott were planning a wedding like during the pandemic, and they postponed because, or like they didn't really start initiating plans for their wedding because they wanted COVID to like wait till COVID was over and everything like that. So it is kind of interesting. Like I guess when you use the word save, if COVID didn't happen, would both of those couples have gone off and gotten married and had weddings? And, would they have ended up getting divorced? Probably, likely, like clearly they weren't meant to be. So yeah, in a way, like it saves you from going through with that and then having to like, it's better to end an engagement than to have to like go through the process of a divorce. So
exactly.
Definitely interesting there, but single Vicky, time to whoop it up, girl.
Yeah. And I must say, and this is just me being a pain in the ass, her statement is grammatically incorrect. You cannot say certain things like Steve and I. You have to say Steve and me in that context. So, Vicky, I don't know who your PR person is, but if you need someone.
She probably wrote it herself.
Yeah, but if you actually need a professional in the future, maybe call me, because your statement is actually grammatically incorrect in two different areas. So just wanted to throw that out there because I am the grammar police. I am annoying about it, but it's not factually correct. So sorry, I hate to break it to you, but yeah, so that's that for sure. So yeah, some other housewives news. We got some more, shakeups in the departure world. So Portia Williams has announced that she's going to leave the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So last week, Portia confirmed that she's going to be leaving the Real Housewives of Atlanta after 10 seasons. She also we have a quote from her. It's a long one. It's a little bit longer than Vicky's, but that was a different statement, obviously. So after 10 life-changing, gratifying, incredible years, it is finally time to begin my next chapter. Next season, I will not be returning to the Real Housewives of Atlanta franchise. This was a difficult decision to not only make, but to also come to terms with. It's one I have put a lot of thought into, and because of that, I know it's the right one. I have so much love and endless gratitude for my Bravo family and supporters. You've made the past decade a truly special one where I've dealt with unbelievable highs and unbelievable lows. And I can honestly say I would not have made it through some of them without the unconditional love and support I've gotten from all of you. So a very nice statement, I think. And she's right. She's gone through a shit ton on this franchise. She really, I know all of these women have, Portia has gone through a lot. On this, and all of it's out there. Like everything's out there. So, so that being said, so she did make an announcement too that her memoir, The Pursuit of Portia, is going to be released on November 16th, and mentioned that she will also be back on TV very soon. So a lot of people this came to a surprise from, and then her co-star Candy commented that she actually wasn't, hoping that she wasn't actually going to leave for real.
Yeah.
And then Andy Cohen saying that not a goodbye, but a pause, so to say. So I'm not really sure what that means, but it could relate to, she did join in 2012 and was briefly demoted to a friend during season 7, but then came back as a full-time cast member. So maybe that's what he means by pause. Maybe she'll.
Well, yeah, I think Andy knows in his heart when a housewife leaves, whether it's kind of like, okay, this is it, this is the end, and we're never going to see them again. They're never coming back. And then I think there are certain housewives where he knows like that door is not fully closed. Maybe it's only open a smidge, but like, never say never on certain housewives. And I think that's kind of how he feels with Portia.
Absolutely. Yeah. And listen, she's that 10 seasons.
if she's open to still doing television, I also think that's another thing. Well, then maybe you're still open to coming back to Housewives in the future.
Yeah, I
You know
think
what I
it
mean?
was.
Like, I feel like when certain people leave Housewives, they're like, I need a break from TV. Like, I
Yeah.
cannot share my life anymore on television. She's still going to be doing that. So it's kind of like, all right, like maybe you just, like Andy said, maybe you just need a pause and you'll come back. So
I think I saw somewhere that like she wanted to do almost like her own version of like the Kardashians,
yeah,
not like
yeah. But she
yeah,
wants to spin off like with still
right.
about her life. Yeah.
They
So
all do. So, but
I
it's
think when you're still in that mode of like you're still cool to like go out and share your life on reality TV, that definitely means that you're still willing to do the Housewives, in my opinion.
and that's what I think too, because I don't think like we even spoke about this like when there was that whole rumor of like Lisa Rinna's family doing something like the card.
Right.
Like I don't think anyone's going to sign on to that. We want the Kardashians have already, even though they're done, no one's going to build up to that stature.
Right.
Like you have people that have tried, maybe like there's all these random shows on TV now about family.
You got
No
Terry
one's ever,
Bradshaw.
I know. I was literally like in the back of my mind was just thinking about his family. I've never watched a lick of that show, to be honest. I just see the commercials and the commercials crack me up, but I've never watched the show. But you have all of these family shows out there. No one's ever going to live up to the Kardashians. And if you're a housewife, we don't want to see you by yourself. We want to see you with everyone else. So I just don't see. So yeah, there's been rumors swirling around that she wants to do a spinoff of her life, yada yada. I don't think the world wants that, to be honest.
I hear you. Yeah. Well, those are our big stories of the week in the world of Housewives. We're going to get into our game now. It is football related, and it's kind of like a good first month of the season overview a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of who's been shining and who we expect to continue to shine or maybe even fall off. The game is called Stat Leaders, Contenders, or Pretenders. So through the first month of the NFL season, we're going to take a look at the top 5 players in some major statistical categories. And for each category, we are going to determine that, obviously we're looking at the top 5. By season's end, which one of these players will not be in the top 5 in that category? By season's end, which one of these players has the best chance of finishing in the top spot, the number 1 spot? And then last question we're going to answer is, name one player not currently in the top 5 that you think by season's end they will have found their way into the top 5. So we have a couple of different big time categories: offense, defense, and even just a general team category. But we are going to start with passing yards. So in order right now, the top 5 quarterbacks in passing yards, we have Las Vegas's Derek Carr, Tampa Bay's Tom Brady, Arizona's Kyler Murray, the Rams' Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes for Kansas City. So Caitlin, who do you think by season's end, out of all these 5 players, who will not be in the top 5 by the end of the season?
Listen, I know he's number 1, but we're only 5 weeks in. I really don't see Derek Carr in this top 5 when the season's over.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're so used to seeing guys like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. And Matthew Stafford, his entire career, has been a huge passing yards guy. Mm-hmm. Like, he throws the ball like 50 times a game. I actually went with Kyler Murray on this one, though, for one really specific reason. When you look at all these other quarterbacks, besides maybe like Patrick Mahomes, like these are pocket passing quarterbacks, okay? Mm-hmm. Kyler Murray very much so has a run game. So to me, if you're going to be running the ball, that takes away from you throwing the ball, that takes away from you getting passing yards. So for that particular reason, I'm taking Kyler Murray out. Number 2, who is going out of these 5? Who's most likely to finish the season at the top spot?
Well, listen, you just bumped him out. I'm pushing him to the top. I am pushing Kyler Murray to the top. And I think I've been speaking of him very highly this season. And you guys know I'm not actually a huge Kyler Murray fan. I think he has showed us a lot so far going into week 5. And what I love to see is when he does, launch it as much as he can to his receivers down the field and going and scoring points. You're absolutely correct that he, very similar to Patrick Mahomes, he can take it himself and he can do these things, and he has shown it so far. But he's also his arm is beautiful, and I hate myself for saying that, but I think he's going to continue on that. And as I look at who the Cardinals are facing this season, and as I see them being still the only undefeated team, they're going to use that to their advantage, I think. So I will actually put him to my number one.
So my top spot is out of these 5 guys is actually the guy who's in 5th right now. I'm going with Patrick Mahomes. He was my preseason pick to win MVP, and he's going to win it for a reason. I'm not alarmed by what I've seen from Kansas City so far, despite having 2 losses through 4 games. Patrick Mahomes is still the real deal, and he's still going to rack up the yards. And I have him finishing in the top spot. And then last but not least, who is somebody that's not in this top 5 right now that will be in the top 5 by the season's end?
We spoke about him earlier, and I'm still high on him. We're going Justin Herbert here.
I went with Justin Herbert as well. And actually, he's in 8th right now in passing yards. But this kid is the real deal, and I'm 100% sold on him. And we are both putting him into that top 5 for sure. All right, category number 2, stats for rushing yards. In order right now, we have Tennessee's Derrick Henry, Cleveland's Nick Chubb, Cincinnati's Joe Mixon, Dallas's Ezekiel Elliott, and Chicago's David Montgomery, who will not be in the top 5 by the end of the season.
So I'm going to go with Chicago's David Montgomery, just because it's just based off the team at this point. And I know if your team is bad and you don't know what to do, maybe you just pass it off offensively. You have a rookie quarterback coming in. So Chicago today did say Justin Fields is our starter moving forward. So sometimes when you see that, you don't know, you push it, you pass it off, you're not sure what to do. To me, though, him matched up against everyone else, there are other people within the league that I think can fall in here, and I don't feel confident with him staying in the top 5.
Well, I thought you were going to say what I have David Montgomery as well, and I thought you were going to say what I was going to say. And this is almost the easiest one to pick out of all the ones we had to do, because David Montgomery is actually going to be out for the next couple of weeks with an injury.
Oh,
so
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. So, well, that's why I thought you were going to mention, that's why you were picking him. That is just like an easy one to go with, because, obviously he's going to be missing time while these other guys are healthy right now, and they'll be in. So
no, didn't even realize that. My bad, people.
Realize it if you have him in fantasy. So
yeah, I probably do, to be honest. I'm not even paying attention. I don't even know.
Who do you have finishing the top spot?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, he's in 1st right now, and the difference between 1st and 2nd place is 148 yards.
Yep.
That's a big margin. It's going to be Derrick Henry. And then who is not in this top 5 that you see finishing the top 5 at the end of the year?
So while I think that the Chargers passing game is super strong, I think their run game is super strong. I have Austin Eckler coming in to this top 5. I love what I've seen him so far. You can almost, it's not, if he's going to take it in and, get the yards for you for the Chargers, it's when he's going to do it. He's been doing great things all game. And I think that's one of the things I love about the Chargers is how dynamic they are with receiving, with rushing. So I'm going to go with him.
Okay. So obviously we all know it's like a passing league, and it has been for a little while now, and running backs are like not as important as they used to be, but this guy is, throw away the wide receivers, throw away the quarterback. He is the best player on his team. I am going with New Orleans Saints, Alvin Kamara. He is currently sitting in 6th place on the list of rush yards. And I don't think Jameis Winston is going to win them ball games. I think Alvin Kamara is going to win them ball games. So pass that rock and throw it to him too. He can catch, but specifically rushing yards, pass that rock to Kamara. Let him rock. Let him do his thing. All right, receiving yards in order. This first guy has just been crushing it. He's not normally like in this top 5, but we've got San Fran's Deebo Samuel. Then we have Kansas City's Tyreek Hill, the Rams' Cooper Kupp, Carolina's DJ Moore, and Green Bay's Devontae Adams. So who will not be in this top 5 at the end of the year?
I don't think I would have said this prior to this season, but he is finishing 5 here. I am going with Green Bay's Devontae Adams. He is so close in this top range to Brandon Cooks and McLaren from Washington, and I'm not putting anything against them, but the numbers are just so close for the 3 of them to have this race right now for that 5 spot. So I think as the games go on, and Houston and Washington aren't particularly strong, but if Green Bay is strong right now, I wonder what's to come of the season. So that's why I'm going to bop Devontae Adams out of this top 5.
Okay. I'm going with Carolina's DJ Moore. He's not a name that we're used to seeing in the top 5 either. And honestly, like, people can come for me if something, if this team ends up actually being legit. I'm not a believer in Carolina. I'm not a believer in Sam Darnold. DJ Moore is a great player, but I'm not a believer in him finishing in the top 5 in receiving yards. I am kicking him out of this list. All right, top spot.
I'm giving it to the Rams' Cooper Kupp. He's been blowing it up this season. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is an animal, and we've seen great things from Deebo Samuel. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing with the Rams. I'm liking so far what I'm seeing with Matthew Stafford. Shocker to the world out there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. But Cooper Kupp was good before Matthew Stafford was his quarterback, and the connection there has been absolutely incredible. So I'm going to go, I think at the end of the season, he might actually finish on top for once.
All right. We have been agreeing so much lately so far this NFL season, but we are going polar opposites. I am putting Devontae Adams at my top spot.
Wow. All right. I love it. No, it's good. It's good.
He is 5th right now. But the reason I I have him going to the top spot is I think Green Bay overall obviously got to a little bit of a slow start.
Right.
And Devontae Adams usually does finish like 1 or 2 like every season in receiving yards. And so I think the fact that he's at 5 despite a slow start from Green Bay, I think it's going to pick up obviously with him and Rodgers. And we've already seen Green Bay like pick it up from where they started. And I think it's just going to progress from there. And it's going to be the normal Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams show. And I think he's going to put up monster yards. Who is not on this list? I think there's so many guys that there to choose from. Who do you have making the list at the end of the year?
Someone that we're super high on and someone who doesn't always get the spotlight he deserves. I'm going to put Tyler Lockett in this list. Right now, he's at 333 with yards. So, and that's not far behind the top 5 guys right now. So why not? We've been loving his connection with Russell Wilson this season. I can only see him getting better. Seattle is a little questionable, I think. They're not as high as I thought they were going to be. I know I did pick them to win that division. But as we enter week 5, I'm still a little questionable on certain things. But listen, I love the dynamic between the 2 of them. So I'm gonna have him enter this top 5 here.
Well, my answer is interesting because I do see for sure Tyreek Hill finishing in the top 5. But then I also have his teammate finishing in the top 5. And I don't have a wide receiver here. I have a tight end here. I'm putting Kansas City's Travis Kelce.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
He actually, despite playing the tight end position, he finished 2nd in receiving yards in the NFL last season. He is currently tied for where's he at right now? He's currently 11th. So he's not far off. He's not number 2 right now like he was when he finished last year. But Travis Kelce is a beast, and I expect to see him wiggle his way into this top 5. All right, sacks. Let's go on the defensive side of the ball. Right now, our sack leaders in order. We have Cleveland's Myles Garrett, Arizona's Chandler Jones, Minnesota's Danielle Hunter, Philadelphia's Javon Hargrave, and Pittsburgh's TJ Watt, who will not be on this list.
I mean, I think I know you love him. I think the team dynamic really struggles. I struggle with the team dynamic here. So unfortunately, I do have to go with TJ Watt on this one just because I just don't see it. I mean, excuse me. The Steelers for me are just not, I don't know. They're not matching up to what people want. They're not living up to expectations. And I think right now their offense is falling. The defense cannot lift them up, or we could say, I'll prime example, the New York Giants probably 3 or 4 seasons ago, maybe 3 seasons ago, their defense was on the field so much, and the defense wasn't bad, but the offense wasn't doing anything within 5 seconds. So so you're tired. You can't
tired. Yeah.
You can't make plays. This is what I see from the Steelers coming this season. Their offense isn't living up to expectations. They're not doing. Listen, there's even question marks around Big Ben right now. So are you going to throw in someone else that you don't even know whether he's injury prone and or you just don't know the status of him? To me, and TJ Watt is a phenomenal player, phenomenal player. I just don't, if their offense can't perform and the defense can't match up either, I don't see big things coming from him. So I just got to pop him out of this list.
Okay. I look at this list and I see 5 names and I see 4 names that are kind of like your household sack leading names. Mm-hmm. You're used to seeing them get sacks. You're expecting them to get sacks. They're always finishing at the top of the league. And there's one outlier. And I think that is Philadelphia's Javon Hargrave.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
He was my kind of default pick in that sense on that one. Who do you have finishing the top spot?
I'm going to go with Chandler Jones. He is a monster. He's one of the people that I do love watching play. We saw it early on so far in this season within our first 4 weeks that he is doing things that you want your team to do. You watch him play and you're like, damn, we want that guy. I absolutely love everything that I've seen from him. You know, his solo tackles are absolutely great. On top of that, with the, you know, when those tackles become sacks, you want to see that. So I do love him. And I think he's going to continue alongside Arizona's success as an entire team.
I'm going with a guy who could definitely be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year this season. He's whether you love him or hate him, he is legit. And I had to go with the guy who's in the top spot right now. I'm going with Cleveland's Myles Garrett.
Hate him.
Plays on a great defense, a really solid defense. Yeah. And a defense, to your point, it's a strong offense. So the defense isn't necessarily getting tired throughout the game. And Myles Garrett, again, most people maybe don't like him. You have to respect his game. He's a really, really, really good player. And he's always at the top of the sack list. So I went with him. And then who is not on this list that you think will be at the end of the season?
I'm going with Mr. Nick Bosa out of San Francisco. And what I looked at, so I know I mentioned with Chandler Jones, his solo tackle. So I know we're looking at sacks right now, but you have to look at a strong solo tackler when you want to look at sacks, because that's what makes a sack. One person is bringing the quarterback down. So Nick Bosa is actually in the top 5 for solo tackles so far. So he has 10 on the season so far, I think. I could be wrong. Someone can fact check me if you want to. But he's within the top 5 already. And listen, he's a strong defensive player. Had the injury last year, could potentially, Katie and I did the game. We did the game earlier before the season of, who
was comeback player of the year.
Comeback player of the year, who could potentially be the MVP coming out of the season or on their specific team.
Right.
We didn't do it. Yeah. And I think I mentioned Nick Bosa because listen, coming back off an injury like that, he was your prime. Listen, you great defender, had an injury, now coming back. Like you got to show what you're doing. I think so far he's doing it. So I'd love to see him in this top 5.
All right. I mean, there's a guy who's just outside of the top 5 and somebody who is always racking up sacks. He's always in the mix. He's with a new team this year, Carolina's Hassan Reddick. So I definitely expect him to, it will not surprise me whatsoever if he finishes in the top 5. He could even, finish top 3, whatever. He is always, always, always in the mix. He is a phenomenal defensive player. Okay, we're going to go back to running the ball, specifically with rushing touchdowns. Funny enough, right now, leading the pack, who would think it, is Carolina's Sam Darnold. He has 5 rushing touchdowns on the season right now. Number 2, we have Tennessee's Derrick Henry. 3, Arizona's James Conner. 4 is Dallas's Ezekiel Elliott. And 5 is Baltimore's Latavius Murray. But again, keep in mind, this could easily, by year's end, have a quarterback in the top 5. Right. It could be Sam Darnold. Who the hell knows? But who will not be in his top 5 at the end of the year?
I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be Sam Darnold. I think it's not going to be Sam Darnold.
That was the second easiest decision I made on this list. Sam Darnold is not going to be in the top 5.
Not going to be Sam Darnold.
Who is going to have the top spot?
Derrick Henry.
And then who is outside of the top 5 right now that you think could be in the top 5 at the end of the year?
Kansas City's Kareem Hunt. This was the easiest thing for me this entire game.
You mean Cleveland's Kareem Hunt?
That's what I meant.
That is so funny because I went with Cleveland's Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I think
they have the same amount of rushing touchdowns right now. They're both right outside of the top 5. And so it could easily be either one of them or even both of them. So,
right.
Okay. Our last 2 categories are team categories. This one for offense, one for defense. So this is team offensive yards per game. We spoke about Arizona earlier in the show and what they've been doing so far. They are in the number 1 spot right now, most yards per game. Number 2 is Kansas City. 3 is Dallas. 4 is Baltimore. And 5 is the Las Vegas Raiders, who will not be in the top 5.
I think it's just based on hype right now. I think a lot of teams like we spoke about earlier in the game, or not in the game, even just in the show, are doing well. We're happy they're doing well, but let's look at the rest of the season. So with that being said, I think I'm going to bump out the Raiders on this one.
I'm going to bump out the Raiders too. They are in the 5th spot anyways, but realistically, I just kind of look at these teams in the grand scheme of things, and Arizona's not going to move out of this list. Kansas City's not going to. Dallas has been doing really well offensively. Maybe Baltimore leaves the list, but in general, the weakest team on this list is the Raiders, in my opinion. So I'm bumping them out. Number 2, who is going to have the top spot?
I'm going to go with Kansas City on this one.
I'm going with Kansas City as well. So, and then last but not least, who is going to enter the top 5 by the end of the season?
Buffalo.
Buffalo. They are in 6th place right now, so that plays a factor. But also, I think the fact that they are such a strong team offensively, playing in such a
if they're going to blow out games 40-0, they're going to be here in no time.
That was outside of their division. So, reason I'm putting them in also is because of the division they play in. I think they're going to have a lot of success against those teams and get some W's and put up some big time yardage. So, they are definitely making the top 5 for me. And then defense, yards allowed per game defensively. So obviously you want a lower number on that one. Buffalo is number 1 right now. Cleveland is number 2. Carolina is 3. Denver is 4. And New England is 5. Who will not be on this list?
I definitely went back and forth between 2 teams. But I think last week showed me that I really liked New England, and I was a little bit higher on their defense than I thought I was. So I'm actually going to bump out Denver on this one.
Okay. I'm bumping out New England. They are 5 on this list. It was kind of like a cop-out on my part because out of these top 5, they're the only one that is allowing more, their average right now is more than 300 yards per game. Everybody else is in the 200s, so that was just kind of a cop-out pick for me.
That's fair.
Top spot, who's it going to?
Buffalo. Boof.
Yeah, I went with Buffalo as well. Honestly, for the same exact reason why I said why they'll do well offensively is because they play in a weak division that might not put up a lot of yards against them, and they're in the top spot now. It was kind of another easy pick there. Who outside of the top 5 will be in the top 5 at the end of the year?
We've been speaking about them so much.
You're going to say who I'm going to say.
This episode, and it's good. It's hot. Really? They're on fire. You can even say that they're lightning. They're Chargers because
we did not. Yeah, no,
we didn't pick the same.
We did not.
Okay, so I am going with the Chargers on this one. So they have about 1,300 yards here. So we want to be on the lower side. So they're actually not that much. Higher. I hate when we do this. Higher, I guess, compared to this top 5. I'd say with the top 5, people are probably in 1,200 range, maybe about 1,100, 1,200. They're really not that far away from the top 5 right now. And I think that they're developing and they're advancing all across the field. So I would like to see, more from them. And I do think we will as the season goes on. So I'm going to pop them into the top 5.
Okay. So what I thought, and we definitely always give a lot of love to the Chargers. I thought you were going to go, what you were going to say is a team that we've always kind of, you and I have spoken a lot about liking them specifically defensively. And they're actually 8 right now on the list. But I really like their defense. And I'm also going based on playing in a weak division as well. I went with the Indianapolis Colts.
You're right.
Defense, and they're going to play some easy teams this year.
Yep.
And I'm actually surprised they're 8. I'm surprised they're not a little bit closer, but I think they will land in the top 5 by the end of the year.
All right. Well, that was a good game. It was fun. It was very dynamic. We looked at a lot of things across the boards. I really like that. And it was interesting just to see where we are as we enter week 5, where certain teams, where certain players are, which is very interesting what we've laid out for you guys on this episode. So, and honestly, let us know your thoughts. We are live right now, but you can also, whenever we're not live, comment when you're listening. Let us know your thoughts on everything here. You give us your people that you'd think.
Absolutely.
It is that time of the episode where we get it off our chest. Positive, negative football, housewives, wine, life, fall. We're in spooky season. So if you want to talk about anything in relation to Halloween, pumpkin picking, apple picking, anything you want. So why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Okay. I'm actually pulling up my phone because I saved some things, some little tidbits that I wanted to.
She's got the receipts, people.
I've got the receipts, and I feel like they're gone now. I don't know what I did with them. Why don't
that
you
means they're not real.
I want to try and find my receipts. I don't know what happened to them.
All right. Well, mine's pretty quick. And listen, like you guys can pull the receipts on every, episode that we've done over the past over 3 years or so. I am just honestly over these prime time games for the East Coast. And I cannot do these 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:20, 8:30 starts anymore. And my bitching stems off of Monday night when we were on the West Coast and there was a lightning delay in a dome. People, how does that absolutely happen? And I know they said the sides were open, so that's why. But I think they spent like $1 billion on that stadium. Come on, people. You cannot let a lightning delay. So the game did not start until 8:55 at night. Guys, I am a grandmother. I am pushing 30. I need to get my rest. I sleep like 10 hours a night. You cannot keep putting these 8:30 games on me. Not an 8:55. So what I'm saying is I think that the NFL should just test out doing these primetime games at 6 o'clock. 7. I'll take 7:30, people. I will take 7:30. I will take 7:30. Just test it out and see. And I understand we have to abide by, and be nice to the West Coast. But listen, there's always TVs around. A lot of us are working remotely. If you're a true fan of something, take a half day, take a day off. You only get how many Monday night games this season? 1, maybe? I think the Giants shockingly have or primetime. I think the Giants have weirdly all 3 primetime games or 2 Monday night games. But if you're a true fan, take a half day. Say you have to go to the doctor, lie. I don't care. You will find, or there were times when we were back in the office when the Olympics were on, when a baseball game was on midday, people were watching on their computer. Don't say you're the best worker out there. You're watching. Mm-hmm. I just need them to test times because COVID wasn't good, but one of the best things of last year was having a random Tuesday night football game at 5 p.m. Eastern. Hell to the yeah, people. I loved that. Yeah. So I'm just sick of it. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. I'm over it. That's it.
Fair enough.
Let's test some new times, people.
I'm here for it. I'm down for that. So I can't find my receipts. So I guess I wouldn't be set for a housewives reunion because I didn't have my receipts on me. But which is a bummer, but it's been a long show, so I'll keep it very short and simple. It was expanding on some stats that I really liked that I saw from both Daniel Jones and Kadarius Toney on the season, and then also in this last game. But just major shout out then to Mr. Daniel Jones, because he was this week's NFC Player of the Week. 70% completion percentage in that overtime win against the Saints, 402 passing yards. That is a career high for him. 2 passing touchdowns. He had a 108 passer rating, and he did also run it in for that very key and clutch 2-point conversion that we attempted. Phenomenal game from him. I think our buddies at Talkin' Giants have a new shirt out. It says "Let Danny Dime," and absolutely, like let's let him work. Let's let him out. People have been so upset that Jason Garrett hasn't been letting him like launch down the field.
Right.
We definitely saw more of that in this game, and we want to see more of it continue to move forward, especially if he is going to be getting more time to throw from our buddy, Mr. Andrew Thomas. So let the boy dime. I'm here for it. Great week to be a Giants fan. Great game from Daniel and company. Everybody really played well.
Yes.
And let's hope we can continue to do that moving forward. So
absolutely.
All right. So things that we do not want to miss this week. And thank you for joining us and hanging out with us. But in the meantime, until you see us again, make sure to watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. That is on tonight at 8 o'clock. Real Housewives of Potomac on Sunday at 8, followed by Real Housewives of Salt Lake City on Sunday at 9. NFL Week 5, our primetime games. Thursday Night Football, the Rams at Seattle. That's a good one. Sunday Night Football gets even better.
Even better.
Buffalo at Kansas City. This could be potentially a big playoff matchup in the future. You never know. And Monday Night Football, we have the Colts at Baltimore. College football, a lot of good games on slate this weekend on Saturday. Number 6, Oklahoma versus number 21, Texas at 12. Number 13, Arkansas versus number 17, Ole Miss at 12. Number 2, Georgia versus number 18, Auburn at 3:30. And this is probably the best one of them all. Number 3, Iowa versus number 4, Penn State at 4 p.m. If you are a college football fan, you do not want to miss those games on Saturday.
I'll be watching that Penn State Iowa game for sure, because I need to listen. If you're going to put Penn State in that number 4 spot, I need to truly believe that. But Alabama plays Texas A&M at 8 o'clock. So I know it's not listen, these are great games, but I did want to plug that for sure. So I'll be honed in all Saturday on this. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, we will see you guys next week. Thank you for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and we will see you later. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.